All right, let's talk about something that's, well, it's tough, but it's so important. We're going to get into why our animal shelters are overflowing. And maybe even more to the point, what does this crisis really say about us? I'm sure you've felt this, right? You're scrolling online, you see a post from a local shelter, and your heart just sinks. It's that feeling of helplessness. And this isn't some far-off issue. It's happening in our own communities every single day. And when you really think about it from their perspective, I mean, just imagine being a dog, full of love to give, and you're just waiting. Not for days, but for months and months in a loud, stressful kennel. It's this heartbreaking limbo for an animal that just wants a family. And it's not just dogs. You've got this constant wave of cats and kittens born outside just trying to make it. When they're finally brought in for help, the shelters are already bursting at the seams. It feels like this cycle that just never, ever ends. You know, every single animal in a shelter, their story represents a moment where something we call collective care has broken down. And what that means is just the simple idea that we as a community have a shared responsibility for the animals among us. When an animal ends up homeless, that safety net has failed them somewhere along the line. So it's really easy to look at overflowing shelters and think, okay, the shelters need more funding, more space, more staff. And don't get me wrong, they absolutely do. But we have to ask ourselves, are we just treating a symptom instead of looking for the actual cause? And that right there, that gets to the absolute heart of it. It is so tempting to point fingers at the system. But the problem doesn't actually start when an animal gets to the shelter door. It starts with us. This is, first and foremost, a human problem. So where does this human problem come from? Well, it all boils down to something really fundamental. It's about our perspective. It's about how we see animals in our lives. And it really splits into two totally different mindsets. And the difference between these two is just massive. On one hand, you have ownership. This is where animals are treated kind of like property, things we have. Love is a transaction, and when things get inconvenient, maybe you move or the vet bills pile up, the animal can become a problem to be surrendered. But then you have stewardship, and that's a whole different world. That's seeing animals as beings we get to share our lives with. Love isn't a transaction, it's a commitment. And their care isn't just your problem, it's a collective responsibility. Okay, so understanding that huge difference between ownership and stewardship, that's the key. That's how we find a real path forward. It's how we move beyond just feeling sad about it all, from sympathy, and turn that feeling into real, tangible action. So what does that action look like? Well, some of it is pretty straightforward. You can adopt or foster, which literally saves a life. You can donate money or volunteer your time, which gives shelters the resources they desperately need. But then there's a third step, and it might just be the most powerful one. And this is it. This is the one that changes everything. The most important step is to simply pause and remember that every single one of these lives feels. They feel joy, they feel fear, they feel love just like we do. Once you truly internalize that, it changes your entire perspective. It's the very foundation of stewardship. Because at the end of the day, blaming the shelters gets us absolutely nowhere. They are dealing with a crisis they didn't create. What they need, what the animals need, is a deeper sense of belonging in our communities. A world where they are truly seen as part of the family, not something that can be thrown away. So that's the real question we have to leave with. It's not about what one person can do. It's about what we can all do together. This isn't just about emptying cages. It's about filling our whole society with a lot more compassion and a lot more responsibility. So, how are we going to do that? How will we grow that belonging, starting right now?